you ready? The Kornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Kornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Kornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. It's Friday, and we have our series and stories of hope. So the question I want to ask you right now is, are you ready to begin to heal and thrive and become the best version of yourself? Melissa Lombardo is here, and she is a well-traveled Connecticut native who lived in Central America for 2 decades. She's a bilingual, certified sexual assault crisis advocate and knows firsthand the silence surrounding the topic of sexual violence. It was through the support of friends and family that she navigated the path of vulnerability to begin speaking out and supporting the healing of those who have faced their own trauma. She now advocates for others as they begin to heal and thrive and become the best version of themselves. As a naturally inquisitive person, Melissa credits her love of writing as a reason she was able to find her voice and thrive beyond trauma. Welcome to the show today, Melissa.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for having me. Happy to be here.
So sexual trauma is the elephant in the room that we need to be more vocal about so that we can heal and move beyond the trauma, right?
Yes, it's definitely something that, at least for me, after it's happened to me, was kept silent by myself, by my own shame, by my own fear. And in the end, healing and talking about it and working through that has brought me to a point that I couldn't imagine I would have been able to get to. And I do credit writing and family and friend support as having helped me in that journey to get to where I am today.
That's awesome. So did you experience sexual, assault in your childhood, or did this happen in your adulthood?
I was a college student in my 20s, and I was sexually assaulted by another college student, also at the same university. I do not have any ill thoughts towards that university, nothing to do with them. I had a great college experience, minus that. And it was during that time where I went to receive counseling at the sexual assault crisis services here in the state of Connecticut. It was actually the New Britain YWCA SACS program. And the counselor encouraged me to write, and I started writing my journal. And many years later, those journal entries transformed into interwoven monologues that became a book I recently published on the hurt, healing, and hope, and being able to thrive beyond sexual assault. I later became a sexual assault crisis advocate through that same organization. It took me 3 times to try. I applied, I was accepted, but I just emotionally wasn't ready. And because it's such a hard topic, and because there's so much that goes into that and things I knew I would be facing. And so it took me 3 times to actually get into that program and actually go through with it. And I was honored that they also chose to write the foreword of the book that I published, and a portion of proceeds actually does go to that organization to support other survivors. So it became something very full circle, and healing and publishing actually became a very similar journey into those next steps in my life, because I just didn't want to be silent anymore. I couldn't transform myself if I had all these emotions and all this trauma inside. Of course, I still have things that cause me triggers, and there is still emotions attached to it. There always will be, because healing's never linear. But at the same time, I've been able to get through so much of that and heal myself and be able to heal those around me, which is the most important. If I don't speak out, maybe there's someone that doesn't heal because they didn't hear another voice that maybe then made it okay for them to. There was lots of people that came before me that wrote and that have spoken out, and I wanted to be one of those voices because you never know where healing is going to come from, which is why I think your program is so important, because somebody listening to this might also begin a healing journey based on something that resonated with them through your show. And so any opportunity I have to be able to talk about that and to be able to help support healing in so many different ways is just so meaningful for me.
It's so beautiful, well said, what you're talking about. It's so authentic and so vulnerable and so real. Voicing what it is, the trauma that you experienced, and being a voice for others who might be suffering in silence. And now it's time for them to heal if they're ready. I also love what you talked about, that it took you 3 times to get into that program, that you weren't really ready all the way yet, but that you've come full circle now. How long was the experience from the time that you went through the sexual assault to when you started working on the writing to where you are now? What's that time span? I'm curious.
Oh my. So some of you might smile a little bit to yourselves on this. I'm not sure if smile is the correct word, but it took me 20 years to get to this point. I was a college student 20 years ago, and I was an undergraduate. That's when I actually started writing some of the journal entries. Years later, I had the opportunity in graduate school to plan activities for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and I was able to pull together some of those journal entries and have other students read some of that work. And from there, I disassociate very well and I block very well. And I was able to think, oh, I'm healed, I'm fine, let's forget anything ever happened. And that went on for a very long time. It wasn't until I moved back to Connecticut that I found that manuscript in my drawer in my parents' house. And I think my mother's listening today. And so she remembers my desk, she remembers that room of mine. And I decided that I was going to do something with this. I was now ready to internally look into myself to be able to heal. I joined a writers group, the Birth of Book Writers Group, and I started to actually develop some of those monologues. So now at that point, we're talking 17 years later, which was just about 3 years ago. I started working with that writers group, and for the first time in my life, I was actually able to read one of those monologues I wrote about something so traumatic out loud. That was a turning point, and that's actually when I realized that using my voice was powerful, and I also wanted to take it a step further, and that's when I contacted the Sexual Assault Crisis Services to then apply to become an advocate. So they all kind of happened at the same time. So really, the part of the transformation was coming home to where I was born, where I'm a native of in Connecticut, like you had mentioned, and then facing those past traumas to then be able to move forward. So I had to leave to come back to then decide that this is the moment, and then be able to work through that. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but
Yeah, it totally does. And I want to just thank my intuitive for guiding me to ask that question, because again, what we're talking about here, it's never too late. It's never too late. Even though, it took 20 years to get to this point, you still look like you're a college student today, by the way. And I just want to say hi to your mom if she's listening. I love that. I think it's really, it takes a lot of courage to, speak about this, and then also, have your parents, your mom be a part of this, and to not feel the shame, because we've always associated sexuality and trauma like this with so much shame, and that we should be silent and all these things. And how courageous you are to come forward and help women now to really heal from the past trauma through speaking about it, through writing about it. Do you have your book handy right now with you?
I do, and I have it's Hurt, Healing, and Hope: Thriving Beyond Sexual Assault. I ended up getting married. My husband is a graphic designer and illustrator, and he actually illustrated the book, and there are original watercolor illustrations made by him. I met
Wow.
him during my decades in Nicaragua, and we have a son, and my son's been very supportive as well. I think it's what you said about, with my mother, and I think family support, both of my parents have been very supportive. My mother it is a topic that is very difficult to talk about in families. My mother has been one of my biggest supporters, and without that support, I think the transformation would have been completely different. She helped with the book launch, as did high school friends that I'm in contact with still from my high school days, college friends, neighbors. The book launch was a show of just how many people out there support others. And I looked around the room, and my godfather was there, my cousin was there, my mother obviously was there, and just people that I've known through so many different aspects of my life. And it was just amazing. And I'm not sure if this is something you've heard before, but even when I used my voice and I listened to myself after, I didn't recognize myself. And it was a full circle of just how far I feel like I've come to have been able to speak about those hard topics to people so close to me in such a, like you said, vulnerable way. It was amazing. And I still don't think I have words for that.
Yeah, I just find this such an incredible story that, even what you said about your husband now and your son and how everyone is involved in the healing. And really, it's healing the trauma of the ancestral lineages of the past, and that this has happened to one human and other humans. And so I certainly would love to have you come back for a longer conversation, Melissa. I really appreciate what you've done with your book, and also you're living in your purpose, you're being in your purpose right now, which is also great. So let's tell the audience right now where they can find your book, first of all, and then where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, any social media is under Melissa B. Lombardo author. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Melissa B. Lombardo author. And my book in print that I created to be able to publish the book is Write Heal Thrive. So you can find out more about me at writehealthrive.com.
Awesome. I love the power that you're claiming through the healing of writing and journaling. I'm a prolific journaler myself. That's truly how I healed myself too. So I totally resonate with the power of that. Knowing that when we have the self realization, when we really, write and access our inner feelings, what's really important to us, when we put that out there, it really that's really what was needed. And I also love what you said, that your mom is your greatest supporter. The fact that you're supported, that is so wonderful. So what is the final word you want to leave us with today, for the woman that is listening to this, that is it's just for her? What would you like to say?
Something my brother has always told me: you got this. And something I've always told to my son: you can. And there's somebody out there for you, and we are out there, whether we know you or not, and you are supported and you are loved, and you got this.
That's a t-shirt, Melissa. You got this.
I'm going to tell my brother that.
Yeah, I love that. So please let Ashley know to connect us via email, you and I, so that we can have a further discussion down the line.
I would love that.
Yeah, that would be great. I want to thank you so much for coming on the Kornelia Stephanie Show and inspiring us today to move beyond the traumas of our past, and that it's never too late, right? So we're going to take a break on the Kornelia Stephanie Show. Thank you, Melissa, for coming on. We'll be right back. I hope that you enjoyed our last segment, or I should say our first segment. And we are in the green room waiting for our second guest to show up. And unfortunately, the person isn't here. So now we're going to be just talking here for a little while until our third guest shows up for the Stories of Hope series that we usually do on Fridays. So I just want to say again, having the conversation with Melissa today is just absolutely inspiring. That what it showed is that it doesn't matter how long it takes. That even 20 years ago, whatever happened to her, like 20 years ago, and then she was been carrying around this secret for such a long time, which a lot of us on the healing journey, on healing our trauma from the past, no matter what it is, if it's, sexual abuse, if it is, drug abuse, if it's domestic violence, whatever trauma we are healing from or that we've been carrying around, that if it's in front of you now, that this is the perfect time for you to uh, go in and look at what this was about for you and heal that trauma, heal the trauma of the past. Whether you're working, through journaling, the healing modality journaling, whether you're doing this with yourself or you've got a therapist or you have a coach that's supporting you. This is the time to heal this so that you can really fully release those traumatic memories that are stored in your physical body from the past and create a new story, create a life in this new earth, in this new time, that you are filled with a greater part of you that is now coming home. Just like we heard Melissa say, she said, coming full circle, and how she took that trauma and how she, wrote it out and healed it herself, and now is helping others heal. So, and then on top of it, wrote a book. I bet you she wasn't thinking about it at first, that she was going to be writing a book about it. And this is what came out of it. And now she's able to help so many others. So I was just so inspired by that. It's such a perfect example for what we can do with our pain. We can turn our pain into purpose. It's what I did with the book that I wrote as well, Peace, the Flip Side to Anger, how I healed my body with the power of my emotions, and how you can too. That book, by the way, is on Amazon. And it's got a 21-day practice in the back of the book. But the first part of the book, I talked about the powerful emotion of anger and how underneath the anger, there's always a truth that's waiting to be claimed, because we are angry about something that's triggering us, and anger within us through the situation of whatever it is that makes us angry, and to go deeper, to go even deeper. So yeah, this is a powerful time right now to rewrite the story, is what it is to rewrite the story, to heal the traumas of our past, and to basically let go and rewrite the story. So I hope that you were inspired by it. Definitely go check out Melissa's book. Definitely come and check out my book. It looks like we now have our uh, third guest for today's show here. She is in the green room. I'm going to bring her on, and we'll still end up. Let's see. Let me just bring her on. Let me see what happens. We're just going organically. This is what happens in the technical world sometimes. Let's go to break, says the producer. We're going to go ahead and go to break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. I've got my next guest, and that is Donna, the Dream Creator. She's here, and she's from Melbourne, Australia. It's 5:30 in the morning over there, Saturday morning, and she has been up for an hour, and she's here to do this interview today to inspire you, the audience, to inspire us to have the hope that we need in order to move beyond our traumas, which is really exactly what we've been talking about over the last 30 minutes. So Donna is passionate about traveling and discovering ancestor stories. Remember, I talked about that earlier. It's our stories that we're healing. And Donna always has her camera primed, and is now a suitcase within an easy reach for the next adventure. On a deeper level, after learning recently about her own need for support from her childhood traumatic events, and understanding that it's not normal, Donna is now helping others who've had similar experiences. She says that too often the children are overlooked and slip through the cracks, to grow up and not be aware of the long-term effects from what they've heard and observed. The emotional scarring they carry can destroy their chances for happiness in the future, and it doesn't have to be like that. That's so perfect, Donna. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, no worries. Thank you for having me.
So, in the break before we came on, we were talking about what focus you wanted to have today, and you mentioned that you want to talk about how you were fearful to go to church again.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
tell that
yeah,
story. That was
yeah.
empowering. Yeah.
So the particular situation was completely blanked out at. I had no idea about it because I was sexually abused by a church minister at 6 years old. And as I've learnt now that, the psyche or conscious mind blocks that all out because I'm too young to deal with it. So first thing I realized is my parents stopped going to church, and I grew up without a religion, and sort of anything to do with religion, hated prayer, the words amen, God, would have nothing at all to do with it, but not really knowing why. And the connections, the experiences with this person over a period of time in different places, it was just a case of, psychologically, obviously, it said, stay away from churches. So it really came to the fore when I had to go to church because my sons got married, and both wives believe in, some sort of religious upbringing. So fortunately enough with the weddings, even though I could feel this anxiousness and things like that, I kept myself busy. I was with my husband, so that was fine. But then as time went on, and it's incredible how the conscious mind works, because I honestly believe it works because you get older, you've got less things to deal with the kids, so you're coping better. And as the grandchildren came on and I had to go to christenings, it just seemed to get worse and worse. And I just had to get out of there. And the last one, I was actually by myself. I was a single woman, and it was incredible. I did everything the opposite. I was running late. I cried all the way to the church. I couldn't go in the church. I was like an animal that was on the perimeter outside, totally fear of going inside. I I got an email a couple of days beforehand from my daughter-in-law saying, "Yay, I've saved the front pew," and I've just gone, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And so as soon as my grandson was christened, I was out of there. His father had to go out and prepare for the guests, so I just followed him. Um, Going through this last couple of years, I've sort of realised, my God, this is the reason why I am the way I am, or very much part of it. And it was a case of the practice that I'm now offering to others is incredible, how you work with the mind and you stop. Obviously I had no self-worth. I didn't deserve anything. I grew up also with a believing that I needed a man to support me because I couldn't do it on my own. So this whole thing that I've just done, and these subtle practices that I do every day that everybody talks about, with the support of a psychologist, but no medication or anything like that. I'm so proud of myself. I actually did a bit of a course a few months ago, and the last section of this little photography course was we went to a cathedral in the city, and she said, "Okay, just this is your time to play with what I've taught you. Go and have a bit of a muck around and enjoy it." And I love taking photos of the outside. And I wandered in and I zoomed around and I took videos, and I went right down to the original part. A couple of 100 years ago, this thing was built. And it wasn't until 10 o'clock the next morning, I'm having coffee, and I went, "Oh my God, I was inside a church." My head was peaceful, silent. And I said to myself, first thing I said was, "So this is what normal people feel." It was incredible. And amazingly enough, about 4 weeks later, I was over in Europe. I went to Italy. So what did I do? I'll test this in these super, super old churches. And I went inside, and so many to feel that, knowing consciously that I am going in there. And it was amazing. Absolutely amazing to get photos of the inside and the outside. And I put it all down to these little practices, which only took me 45 minutes to an hour every morning, to turn everything around. And I have belief in myself. And the biggest thing is I now know I'm worthy and I love myself.
What a beautiful, wow.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's really, really incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible how that was the relationship that you had with the churches, but at first you didn't know why. Uh,
No.
I want to know, like, when did you know why?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
No,
So
No, that's not quite correct. 50 something came out, and I sort of knew when I was 50 that I was abused, sexually abused by a church minister, and a couple of flashes that I'd had growing up of flashbacks, I connected the dots. So, but it was 2 years ago, I suppose more of about after I started this process, I accepted and realized what it had done, and it opened me up to really realize the damage and put all the dots of flash memories together.
That's again incredible with how long you were carrying around that trauma and that pain in
Yeah.
your life, right? And
Yeah.
how, it 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 happened like 2 years, maybe a little bit more than 2 or 3 years ago, where you
Yeah.
started putting all of that together. And now here you are,
Yeah.
a few years later, and you've completely healed your
Yes.
traumatic past, because you can now go into a church and it's almost like the event never happened.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing at all to worry about. Yeah.
Right?
When I walked into those churches, it was about getting the stained glass windows and feeling the energies of it being 1,000 years old. And yeah, everything else was gone. It was totally gone.
Wow, that's such a huge testament to show that once we really do the work, the traumatic work, and do the release work and the healing, when we're ready to
Mm.
take it on and heal from it, that we can. And that basically, like you said, it was a 2.5 year process or whatever, and then here you are.
Mm.
Now you're taking pictures on the inside and the outside of the churches, and you're feeling pure and you're feeling healed. And
Yeah.
that is a wonderful, wonderful new storyline
Yes.
that you are telling, right? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
like another incarnation in this incarnation, like a new beginning.
Yes, definitely.
So now you're helping others. So what is it that you do? How do you help others?
Well, I believe that the biggest thing is, we all sort of have this negative mindset. Everything goes round, around, 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 which I once upon a time thought it was normal. Now I know it's not. So it's a case of practicing to reduce the negative mindset, the negative emotions, because we know every thought attaches to a sad emotion. So turn it around and put something happy. So it's a practice, like, all tennis stars, they don't wake up and they're a star, they have to work on it. So it's the same thing as just practice focusing on the other things. And all the little things I implement in my workshop are little pieces of the puzzle that help you spend more time in the positive as opposed to negative, because my principle is we all only have 24 hours in a day. So let's spend more time in the happiness and less time in the positive. And it's just a practice of going with the happy things. So it's about thinking about what you love. And from there, you build on that. So, whenever you're having a sad time, as soon as you think about, oh, I'm in a bad place, I'll change, go back to that thing that you love, that kitten that you had, that puppy that you had, that fantastic, for me, I love travel, that fantastic holiday that I had. So it's all focused around bringing it around. So Dream Creator, for me, it's about, what is it you want to do with your life? Everybody, it opens up their hearts because they think about their passions. So it's all based around that, and it has these subtle messages that sort of combine the two, that instigate and open up people to, because it's their own journey, it's up to them to take it. They've got clues and hints, and then I can support them with my website, mydreambox.me, to continue on with their journey with little snippets, because I honestly believe, we're in a place we're going to get a little bit of information from that person, that book, that podcast, that, movie, whatever it is. So that's what I'm about now.
So are you saying that prior to you healing the trauma from your past, being sexually abused by a minister, a church minister, prior to that, like let's just say, 2.5 years ago, that what you're doing now with the process that you developed, the workshops that you're teaching, all of the things that you're doing today, that wasn't part of your teaching?
Oh, no, no, not at all. No, I had a nickname prior to that from the ex-husband, Dragon Lady. I was a very angry woman. And I could attract friends, but within 6 weeks they were back because I developed this, I'll hurt you before you hurt me. So my whole world was about that. Nothing at all about this woohoo stuff, you know. So yeah, I was just going to work the grind, you know. Need to get money in to survive, you know. So, and that was like a survival mode, I suppose. Yeah. And every now and then a little glimpse of opportunity to go on a bit of a holiday. So
Right. And
yeah.
basically you were just projecting out your own anger onto, you were being the victim and projecting out, keeping people at arm's length.
Yeah, a shield.
A
So they wouldn't
shield, right?
hurt me. So yeah, because so many hurt me. My mother abandoned me at 11. My father disowned me at 14. And the world just went on. Domestic violence was a key thing in my childhood. So it was a case of, I'm not going to get hurt anymore. So the conscious mind and, was the energy sort of said, stay back. And there
Yeah.
was only a couple of friends that knew the deep inside, knew the real me. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's why, if somebody has just only one or two friends, they know you and they love you. Yeah, for what you
Absolutely.
are. Yeah,
You said it earlier that you're so proud of yourself. Did you say
yeah.
that? I think you did.
Yes, I am.
I just want to tell you that we're proud of you too. I'm proud of you
Yeah,
for
thank
really
you.
turning all of that negativity, the old construct, the old
Mm.
storyline around, and what you've created and what you're doing now, helping others. Let's give everybody your social media handles and how they can look you up and how they can find you.
All right. So my website is mydreambox.me. And the workshop that I do is the Dream Creator Workshop. And I've got a freebie page, and all they have to do is just sign up. And in that, there they then have entrance. I can't think of the word right now. They can access to the page where I put lots of hints and tips and links that I believe at the time when I used them were reputable. So lots and lots of information, because starting this journey, the world is huge, the universe is huge, the internet is huge. It can take forever to try and find something that feels safe. So I'm just sort of reducing it and helping people along, just to encourage them a little bit. And if they want to contact me via Facebook, I call myself Donna Marie, Maree, and yeah, they're my two key contacts. Because I still am employed, so I've got to try and balance it all while we're going through this learning stage. So yeah, that's happy to talk, especially on send me an email, happy to chat. And if
That's
they're in Australia, happy to phone. If they want to phone me, happy to talk on the phone.
Oh, that's so great. I just want to thank you again for coming on and inspiring us. What an incredible story. The link, Donna, that you have for this show, the replay is the same link. I would also
Excellent.
encourage you to watch the beginning of the show with our first guest, Melissa, and how she is a trauma advocate for sexual abuse. So I think this was a perfect fit there,
Yeah.
and how through writing she healed herself. But also it took a long time for her to bring voice to it and make peace with all of it. It took 20
Mm.
years for her. So
Wow.
what a wonderful turnaround, and giving people hope that it doesn't matter when it happened, you can
No.
heal it now, and that time is
Yes.
now. And thank
Yes.
you for being such a courageous voice and getting up at 5:30 in the morning to come on. So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you, Donna, the Dream Creator. We're going to take a break on the Kornelia Stephanie Show. We're going to go fetch our next guest, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited now to introduce you to our last guest for the Stories of Hope today, Tanysha Lee Costales. She is a self-love advocate and inspirational author, and she's triumphed over dysfunction and trauma through self-love and discovery. She miraculously healed from fibromyalgia. So if there's anybody out there that is suffering with fibromyalgia, you can heal. And dedicated the last 6 years to her own personal growth and family. She's an international best-selling author and radical self-love coach. Tanysha empowers women to embrace self-love and self-acceptance to find healing. And her story today offers hope, resilience, and transformation to those seeking love and a purpose-filled life. Welcome to the show today, Tanysha.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
It's great to have you. So I was letting you know that our last two guests, we were talking about sexual abuse and trauma, and you healed yourself with an illness that you had, fibromyalgia, which it affects your immune system, right? And it basically has you paralyzed, like not having any energy. Is that correct?
Correct. There's a lot of tension and just nonstop chronic pain. It never ends.
So this is where you found yourself, and is that what got you on the path to where you are today as this phenomenal wellness speaker and empowering coach?
No.
No.
Fibromyalgia was not what pushed me to pursue loving myself. What happened was since I've graduated high school, I met the father of my children, and we immediately started a family right away. So I never knew who I was, and he had his own dysfunction. He grew up in a dysfunctional family as well. So did I. So we came together, two broken people, and we were both hurt as well. So we were hurting one another as we were growing this family. And there was some, how should I say this? Tension within the relationship where I was missing the attention that I craved. So what I did was I did what I knew best and what I was always used to. I started looking for love in the wrong place. So I started entertaining another man, which when I did that and I met this man, I went through something. I got violated and I endured a rape.
Oh.
So it is right after that rape where my body started becoming inflicted. And now I'm suffering from all this pain. I'm 25 years old, never had any problems. And it was almost 2 years when I finally got healed. So it was after that happened, I was living with that shame. I was living with that guilt. And it was hard for me to stare the father of my children in his eyes. I've always dealt with self-hatred growing up. I was the ugly duckling. I was the black sheep. So that just always stood with me. So that self-hatred, that self-loathing, it was affecting me. I knew my problem was the lack of love that I had for myself. So I told myself, I will never be able to love him if I do not love myself first. So I built up the courage to tell him I need to leave. I need to focus on me. I can't be in this relationship. So that's when I embarked on my self-discovery and my self-love. And that's how I was able to tap into that. So that was the beginning of how I started the process. Then afterwards, once I tapped into that, that's when the miracle happened and I was healed from fibromyalgia.
Amazing. That's when the miracle happened and you were healed from fibromyalgia, when you started looking within and looking and healing yourself and nurturing yourself and honoring yourself and healing the inner child that was looking for love in all the wrong places. So I'm curious, are you still with the husband today that you?
Yes. Right after I had that epiphany and I realized, oh my goodness, I love myself. It was only a few months later, but I had that epiphany and I was like, oh my goodness, I love myself. I was my own best friend, and I no longer cared about anybody's opinion of me, where I knew, wow, he had his problems just like me. I'm no innocent. But I knew he was a good man. He's a good father, and I knew I deserved a good man like that. So we started talking again, and we were able to restore our relationship, and I moved back in, and then the chronic pain got worse. So this is now when the time when I received that miracle, because I finally hit rock bottom.
Mhm.
But so we did get back, and after I received my healing, I was ready to finally marry him, and we got married.
That's a beautiful.
6 years, 6 years. So my healing journey, my self-love healing journey, 6 years, and we've been married for 6 years.
That's really a beautiful story. You said it earlier, you guys came together initially, both broken and wounded. And uh, the part that you had the realization after you had the affair and you were raped, which really sorry that that happened, that you realized that, oh, there is a lack in me that I need to heal first instead of looking outside of myself. You created that situation so that, right? And
Yeah.
that's very traumatic of creating that. So your children are now being loved and influenced by the two of you. That is about nurturing the self, loving the self, honoring the self. Is that right?
Yes, that I'm the radical self-love coach. So I have a amazing relationship with my children. I'm As I grow and as I learn, I teach them what I'm learning, and I communicate with them. So every day we're talking. They're comfortable to open up to me to talk about anything. I provide them with the truth. I do not hold back anything. And so the stories of my children, and especially my oldest, she's 12, she's about to be 13 in February. So you already know those teen ages. And then in the beginning, they get a little boy crazy. And we had a situation where she was talking to this kid. And see, this is why it's important, the self-love, and why I'm dedicated to spreading this message, because it not only helps you, but it helps the people around you, such as your partner, your children. And now you're just raising this strong foundation, and it's just going to spread. They're going to teach every people who are willing to listen why they're confident and why they don't, what's that word? Why they're not easily influenced and manipulated.
Because they have a
So,
higher self-esteem.
yes, yes, they know their worth, they know their value, they have high standards, and they have healthy boundaries where they will not allow other people to disrespect them and just, how should I say this? Just hurt them with words. So she was talking to this kid, and he was really saying some nasty things to her, as in, you're ugly, you're this, go unalive yourself. And it started affecting her confidence with her. Now she was questioning her appearance, and I noticed right away her how she was speaking to us and treating us. And she opened up to me and explained to me what happened. But she said, Mommy, you know what I realized? I remember the story you told me of your mother and how she dealt with your father for all those years. And he was verbally abusive, and she would continue to go back, and he'll say, oh, I'll do better. I won't treat you that way. And I said, that's that generational curse you was talking about, Mommy. So that's when I finally decided I'm no longer going to talk to him anymore.
That's so good. That again is rippling out your work that you've done on yourself. You have a book, Tanysha. Hold up your book and show us the book. Tell us where people can get it.
Yes, you can
Hold it
purchase my, yep. My book, Becoming a Virtuous Wife, A Breakthrough Guide to Healing Trauma, Restoring Your Family, and Unlocking the Power of Communication. You can purchase it on my website at hannahsunfadingbeauty.com.
And do you have a social media handle as well?
Yes, my social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Hannah's Unfading Beauty.
That's beautiful. It's hard to believe looking at you that you actually had the thought that you were ugly or that you weren't beautiful. Looking at you, that it just goes to show you, the beliefs that we that are projected upon us, that they're so untrue, and that to really realize your own beauty is an honoring act of self-love. So, Tanysha, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for inspiring our audience, and then also for inspiring your children to, walk in high esteem and be in high esteem. That's really the future of our new earth and our, the children,
Yes.
right? So thank you for coming on the show. Thank you, audience, for listening and tuning in. We'll see you again next Friday. And thank you, everyone. We'll see you. Have a good weekend. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
You've been listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, Wake Up to Love, your call to action. Tune in each week on Transformation Talk Radio. Kornelia's joy is to engage others in practical ways, showing us how to live in the new earth in harmony with our true nature. For more information on Kornelia and her extraordinary work, or to listen to past shows, go to her website at korneliastephanie.com.